nghynhadledd Wanwyn, Plaid Cymru. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Plaid Cymru Spring Conference. Unwaith eto heddiw, mae gen i mledd o oreithiau cyfarfodydd ymylol a thrafodaethau panel. Once again today at conference, we have a host of speeches, fringe meetings and panel discussions. I agor ein cynhadledd heddiw, opening conference for us today is Plaid Cymru spokesperson for Equalities and Social Justice and the member of the Senedd for South Wales West. Rhowch groeso cynnes felly I lefarydd Plaid Cymru dros gydraddoldebau a chyfiawnder cymdeithasol ac aelod o'r Senedd dros Orllewin Cymru, Sioned Williams.
Diolch yn fawr. Wel, bore da gynhadledd. A mae e mor braf bod yn Llanelli. Mae'r dre a'r clwb rygbi wedi cael tipyn o sylw yn ddiweddar rhwng y gyfres Slamd yn olrhain hanes rygbi'r 70au gyda Delmi Thomas, Phil Bennett, J.J. Williams ac wrth gwrs Graf yn Sireni. Ac yna'r gyfres rygbi, y gêm yn y gwaed ar S4C, lle roedd Carwyn Jones yn dipyn bywiocach yn adrodd hanes ein gêm genedlaethol na fi erioed fel prif weinidog Cymru. Rhoddwyd tipyn o sylw i'r Carwyn arall yn y ddwy gyfres. Fawr ddim sylw yw wleidyddiaeth genedlaetholgar. So Llanelli and the town's rugby heroes have received a fair amount of recent attention between BBC Slamd and S4C's game and a gwaed. And as we'd expect, Llanelli's prophetic coach, Carwyn James, from 1969, featured prominently in both, but little was said about his politics. In the year prior to his coaching the Lions to a historic series win in New Zealand, Carwyn stood in Llanelli for Plaid Cymru in the Westminster election of 1970. He captured a respectable 16.8% of the poll, with 8,637 votes, about the size, it was said, of the average crowd at Stradey Park. It was no doubt the combination of his patriotism and the egalitarianism of his upbringing that led him in the late 1960s to fight the National Coal Board in the courts on behalf of silicosis sufferers like his father. It is the combination of a desire to defend our people and an egalitarian ethos that has informed Plaid Cymru's response to the current cost of living crisis. Fel llefarydd Plaid Cymru ar gyfiawnder cymdeithasol a chydraddoldebau, mae wedi bod yn anrhydedd ers cael fy ethol I fod yn ymgyrchu ar sicrhau prydiau bwyd am ddim un plant, mwyn sicrhau dechrau mwy cyfartal mewn bywyd iddynt, a helpu teuluoedd wrth i'r esgyd wasgu yn annioddefol o dyn. Hefyd ehangu gofal plant am ddim, gan ddechrau gyda'n teuluoedd sydd mwyaf angen ein cefnogaeth. A galw am gynllun I fynd i'r afael ar lefelau cywilyddus o dlodi plant, sy'n sgandal genedlaethol. Cynllun gyda thargedau clir a chanlyniadau mesuradwy mwyn rhoi diwedd unwaith ac am byth ar yr amddifadedd sy'n creithio ein cymunedau ac yn niweidio dyfodol ein cenedl. I've also been urging the government to take action to help learners from low-income families by, for example, increasing the educational maintenance allowance, an affordable measure which could prevent the opportunity gaps which continues to blight our country from deepening, and campaigning on fuel poverty, asking the government to make sure that every penny of support reaches the pockets of those who need it, and pressing for a better programme to reduce household energy consumption by taking a demand-led, fabric and worst-first approach to retrofitting, targeting the poorest households and the least efficient homes. Because of this emphasis on social justice, Plaid Cymru's emphasis on the egalitarianism that defines our political culture at its best, and that informed the political values of Carwyn James. Our emphasis on a rejecting of the divisive and self-serving politics of the Tories in Westminster and Cardiff alike. I'm sometimes told that I'm Labour, really. Sioned's on the left. She's Labour, really. I've heard the same about my colleague who represents South Wales West with me, Luke Fletcher, or Luke's a lefty. He's Labour, really. Like many in the party, there are some Labour ancestors in my family. Indeed, my great-uncle, Di Will, was an Erin Bevan's agent in his first election. But let me tell you why I'm not Labour, really. I'm not Labour because their unionism will always trump their socialism. They refuse to take the powers they need to create the fairer Wales they claim they want to see. They condemn the cruel effect of welfare cuts on Welsh families, but have not persuaded their Westminster colleagues to devolve welfare. I'm not Labour because while they claim to want Wales to be a nation of sanctuary, Labour still think the power to decide who is deserving of our welcome should lie in Westminster, tying Wales to the monstrous Tory policies that see people fleeing from harm turned away and abandoned to their fate. I'm not Labour because while declaring at every turn their trade union history, they're nowhere to be seen on the picket lines. Just this week, in a Senedd debate on opposing the pernicious Tory anti-strike legislation, the Labour benches were literally empty, and Plaid Cymru's call to devolve employment law to protect our right to strike, rejected by their ministers. I'm not Labour because I won't stomach Starmer's kowtowing to right-wing English press to gain power. I'm not Labour because I lived through the Blair years and witnessed the way he sought to resurrect British neo-imperialism in a disastrous war in Iraq. I am not Labour because they completely failed to reject and resist Brexit and continue to refuse to support entry into the single market. The idea that to emphasise social justice and equality is to make you Labour, really, is to ignore the last 50 years of political history. I'm Plaid Cymru because I'm internationalist, embracing a Welsh Europeanism that would give Wales a voice in the world. I'm Plaid Cymru because I want to protect the rights that created a cooperative, caring, collaborative community in all of our coalfields and other communities. And I want to assure the next generation is given the protections that our forebears fought so fiercely for. I'm Plaid Cymru because we can't trust in any Westminster government to safeguard the interests of the people of Wales. Without the necessary powers, we are at the mercy of a reactionary Tory government, such as the one that we have now, who target minority groups for political reasons and stir hatred with their dog whistles. I'm Plaid Cymru because I want to see all children protected from the harmful consequences of being denied the chance to fulfil their educational potential. The Welsh Labour government insisted time and again that introducing universal free school meals for all primary school children was unaffordable, until, of course, we pressured them into realising it wasn't. What really isn't affordable is to limit the potential of our most disadvantaged young people, who already have far fewer opportunities to lead prosperous, healthy and fulfilling lives. Ultimately, I am Plaid Cymru because I've had enough of our nation being mismanaged and exploited by Westminster. Exploited, a bit dramatic, they'll say. But what else do you call a situation where millions of pounds of Welsh taxpayers' money is being used to build a railway line in England that most of us will never use? I'm Plaid Cymru because I don't want to be governed by the Tories, a party we've never voted for for 3/4 of this century as we were for 3/4 of the last. I want to see our nation's voice heard in a global context, the equivalent to Finland, Denmark, Lithuania, the Republic of Ireland, and by the end of the decade, Scotland. We're not really anything else. We're Plaid Cymru. We reject the Westminster establishment and the unionism of other parties. We're a party of emancipation, self-confidence, and conference of responsibility. Roedd Carwyn James yn ymglawdoli'r gwerthoedd hynny, a dyna ai arweiniodd I sefyll dros Plaid Cymru yn Llanelli. Nid oedd dim yn rhoi mwy o falchder iddo na pan arweiniodd chwaraewyr Cymreig tîm y Llewod, y rhan fwyaf ohonynt yn gynnyrch y maes glo fel fe, I lwyfan Eisteddfod y Glowyr 1971 ym Mhorth Cawl. Bu'n swyno'r gynulleidfa y diwrnod hwnnw drwy adrodd cerdd cynnan am gêm rygbi ryngwladol y Dyrfa. Mae'n dda gweld tyrfa go dda ohonom wedi ymgasglu yma'n barod y bore yma, ond bydd angen tyrfa lawer mwy I gyflawni ein nod. Bydd y rhai ohonom sydd yma yn gwybod bod y gynhadledd yn bair o syniadau a luniwyd I fynd i'r afael a'r problemau mawr sy'n wynebu ein cymunedau. I'r rhai tu fas i'r neuadd, gadewch I mi eich annog I ymuno a thyrfa Plaid Cymru a chyfrannu at y trawsnewid sydd ei angen mor ddirfawr ar Gymru. Diolch yn fawr.